I want to ask you to feel that you are wanted, that you are chosen, that you are the elect. As we are told, He chose us in Him before the foundation of the world. But man will not believe it. He will not believe that he is that important. So, we are speaking now of the Lord, the Creator of the universe, who chose us in Him before the foundation of the world. So tonight, I will try to convince you that you are the chosen. The most controversial verse in Ecclesiastes, the most disputed, is the 11th verse of the 3rd chapter. And God has put eternity into the mind of man. Yet so, that man cannot find out what God has done from beginning to the end. This is the only time in the Scripture that the word is translated eternity. In the King James Version, it is translated the world. The other books say Moffat, James Moffat. And he translates the word as mysteries. To the mind of man, He appointed mysteries, yet so that man cannot fathom God's own purpose from beginning to end. Paul comes on, and he tells us he waited for the fullness of time. And when the fullness of time came, God sent forth the Spirit of His Son into our heart, crying, Father. And that He has made known unto us the mystery of His will, according to His purpose, which He set forth in Christ as a plan for the fullness of time to unite all things in Him, both in heaven and on earth. Now, the word translated eternity, or world or mystery, is the Hebrew word olam. Now, this is the only place in the entire book where it is translated the world or eternity or mystery. And yet, it is used hundreds of times in the Bible. The word is olam. Here is one. And when you go to the people of Israel and they ask you, who sent you? Simply say, I am has sent me unto you. This is my name forever. The word forever is olam. When you read the word everlasting in Scripture, in the Old Testament, it is olam. And you read all of these, it is olam. Here in the 136th Psalm, there are 26 verses, and each verse ends with the same statement. Thy steadfast love endures forever. And that forever is olam. Now, He put olam into the mind of man. Remember, His name endures forever, which is my name forever. What did He put into the mind of man? His name is Himself. His name forever is I am. That is the immortal being who created the universe. His steadfast love endures forever. So, into the mind of man came God Himself, which is I am. That's the Lord. There is no other God. If you could only believe for one moment, as you are seated here, you are aware of being. Awareness of being is actually saying, without the use of words, I am. And that is God. If you could only believe that you are that altogether wonderful being that He chose to give Himself to, your entire world would change. You will see everything differently, to feel that I am wanted. The average person in the world feels that he is unwanted. He's unknown. And yet you are known and loved by the only presence in the world that matters. That's who you really are. You are the being that God so loved, He actually became you, that you may become God. So, when you say, I am, that's God, and there is no other God. Now, in Hebrew, thought history consists of all the generations of men and their experiences fused into a single whole, and that concentrated time into which all the generations of men and experiences are fused, and from which they all spring, is called eternity. The predominant sense of the word olam is permanent. It means the continuous as against, or in contrast to, the fragmentary time that quickly passes away. That's something that is forever. So, He put forever, which is Himself, in you. So, Blake could quite honestly say, all things exist in the human imagination. So, When you sleep tonight, though you may not be able to pay rent, though you may think you are unknown and unwanted, dwell upon this thought. You're not only known, but you are known by the only being that really matters. And that only being so cared that he became you. He dwells in you as your own wonderful human imagination. When you say, I am, that's God. There is no other God. And that is God forever and forever. That's the immortal you that cannot die. I could chop off your head right now and see the body turn into dust by putting it into the flames, yet you cannot die. That's only a mask that you wore when I saw you. But you, the real you, cannot die. It is eternal because it is God, the real you. If you could only catch this feeling, your whole world would change. You'll feel important. You'll feel wanted. Wanted by what? The government? No, that's nothing. That's transitory. All things pass. But this one that so loved you passes not. He simply so loved you, he actually became you. And he is the eternal being in the world. You dwell on that, and your whole feeling changes concerning your value in this world, who you really are, and what you amount to. You are the chosen one. You are the elect. Let me share with you a few letters that came this week. I see a few of them here who wrote them. One lady wrote saying that she found herself in her swimming pool and she was floating on her back. And she decided to make the entire swim on her back, from one end to the other. And she said, I felt that I had had too much wine. And I felt really to the point of capacity. And I shouted out, I have had too much swine. And then I got embarrassed that I had so much wine that even my words would not take the proper course. And I corrected myself and said wine. I said, I do enjoy a drink, but it's not wine. I like something stronger. I am not given to excessive drinking, but when I do have a drink, I like something stronger. But here it was wine, and I am floating on water in my own pool. Then she said, I felt your presence. I didn't see you. I couldn't say to anyone, I saw you. And now I cannot actually say that you were another. Yet here, I know you were present, and you and I are one. We are one. So, I could no more use the word we. I will have to say I. Yet, I know that you and I are one, and I cannot divide it and say we. It is simply I. And then I awoke. Well, she caught it perfectly. Where do you think I am going when I depart this section of time? If heaven is within you, and that's where I am headed, all of my experiences have completed the journey in this world of tears. Where can I go but within heaven? And heaven is within you. Read the 17th chapter of the book of John. I dwell in them, in everyone. And we are one, as thou and I are one. And I mean that seriously. We are one because there's only one God. So, when you awake and you are the Father of God's only begotten Son, you are God. So where are you going to go? But back to your source, which is God. And so, she felt my presence, and yet you were not another. I could see I couldn't refer to you as something, as another. I could not even use the plural and say we. And yet I knew we were one. I felt your presence, and yet it is my very being. So, in the end, God played all the parts. There is nothing in the world but God. He conceives the entire play. He played all the parts, for his name forever is I am. You say I am, don't you? Well, that's God. I say I am. It's the same God. It's not another God. So here in this marvelous story, but concealed, for the word olam means to hide self. It means to conceal. It means to hide from. It also means the lad, the youth, the stripling, the young man, and he put olam into the mind of man. What did he put into the mind of man? There's only Jesus Christ, but divide the word. Jesus is the Lord, that's I am. Christ is his son, is the son of the Lord, and that Christ is David. He is the man. So, when he stands before the king, the demented King Saul, and Saul said to him, "Whose son are you, young man?" He first inquired of his lieutenant Abner. He said, "Abner, whose son is that?" "As your soul liveth, O king, I cannot tell. Inquire whose son this stripling is." And then, when you could not find out, he brings him before the king, with the head of the giant in his hand. And then the king addresses David. He said, "Whose son are you, young man?" He said, "I am the son of Jesse." The son of Jesse. Well, Jesse means I am. I am telling you, I am the Son of God. The word Jesse means I am, in any form of the verb to be. It means Jehovah exists, and Jehovah is Yod, He Vav He, which really means I am. He is telling you, I am the son of the one whose name forever and forever is I am. Who stands before you? Well, who did he put into the mind of man? He put himself and his son into the mind of man. So Paul, making the discovery, could say, do you not realize that Jesus Christ, which is the Lord, and his anointed one, his Son, is in you? And at the end of time, his purpose is revealed. God's purpose is to give himself to us literally. So, in the end, you awake, and his Son calls you Father. You tell the story to those that he gave you, out of all that he has, that you may bring them to a certain level of awareness. And then you depart. And where are you going to go? Into heaven? For where is heaven but within? So, when she said, I cannot say we, I can only use the personal pronoun in its singular form. I, and yet I felt your presence. I knew that we were one, but I can't use the word we. I am so much you, I can't say we. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So, we come to the end, and the journey is over. I am just simply your own wonderful I am. So, in the end, when the curtain comes down on the entire drama, God, who conceived the entire thing, played it all and forgave all. Forgave everyone because he played every part in the world. Now, another letter, and he is here tonight. It says, through my years, I have used imagination to achieve my goals in this world. And yet, I have found myself having used my imagination, and I've completely forgotten the incident. Then, it came to pass, and I reaped the results. And I can't get over that belief that I, intellectually, did it. And so, I completely forget that imagination did it. I imagined it to be done, and then dropped it. And then, in the interval of time, it happened. I'm confronted with the evidence, and yet here I am stuck, because I cannot get over that belief that I intellectually did it. And yet I do remember having done it in my imagination. Then he quotes several lovely passages of Scripture. He quoted the 20th chapter of Numbers. He quoted the 8th of Deuteronomy. He quoted the 10th of Isaiah and the 7th of Judges. If you read these stories, the Lord is trying to convince Israel that Israel didn't do it, that the Lord did it. So, in the book of Judges, he said, I am now stuck. I can't understand this test that the Lord gave to Israel in the book of Judges. You'll read it in the 7th chapter. He is about to conquer Midian for Israel. And so, the call goes out, and 32,000 responded. Now he gave them 2 tests. The first test was one based upon fear, and 22,000 of them confessed that they were afraid. So they were released from duty and sent back to their home. He still had 10,000. He thought that's too many for Israel would say, we did it. But if I can reduce that number from 10,000 to just a skeleton against the mighty hordes of Midian, They can't say that my mighty army did it, but the Lord must have done it. So, then he gave them a second test. Anyone who could lap water as the dog laps water. And so, then they all had to make the test at a running brook, and those who went down on their knees were disqualified. Those who cupped their hands and drank it from their hands, being alert constantly, they were drinking water, bear in mind, that the lady said she was floating on water, and she was filled with wine. The first sign in John is to turn the stone and fill it with water, and then turn the water into wine. There are three levels of awareness. There's solid, objective fact, the reality. Then the water is the psychological meaning of Scripture. And then comes the wine, the spiritual understanding of it. So here, only 300 cupped their hands and drank from it. And they are put aside, that they were the only ones who would be taken to conquer all the hordes of Midian. That Israel could not say, by my own strong hands, I did it. What does it mean? That's a parable. All these are parables. It's a parable of life for all of us. Spiritual nourishment. He's obtained by those who, while they move along the normal, natural paths of experience, feed themselves as it comes. And there are those who think there must be a special occasion, a retreat for my meditation, a withdrawal from the world. I must actually put myself apart and be something entirely different for the Spirit of God to come upon me. May I tell you, they will wait and wait and wait for unnumbered of years, and it will not come that way. Go about your Father's business, going to the marketplace, and whatever you are doing, do it, but always remember the Lord. So, they cupped their hands, but they were alert. They didn't get down on their knees and bury their head in the running stream. They cupped their hands, and they were alert, for they were on a journey. 300. So, he reduced it from 32,000 to 300. So I say to him, you feel that you take credit for your intellectual accomplishment, and you know from experience that you did receive that with an imaginal act, and then you forgot the imaginal act. But the imaginal act didn't forget itself. It came to pass, and you reaped the harvest of what you had done, imaginably, knowing you did not really accomplish it with your own intellectual powers. Well, go back to seeing now. You do not need any withdrawal from this world for spiritual nourishment. None whatsoever. You think you need some special occasion? If you need some little retreat where you can go and meditate, you have the wrong concept of God, for He is in you. Where are you going to find Him? More than where you can find Him wherever you are. If you're standing at a bar, He's present. No matter where you are this night, He is present in you. He is not in any holy place in the world. Wherever you are, that's the holy place. There is no cathedral in the world, no so-called holy place. Call it a sanctified cemetery. Cemetery of what? He is buried in you. You are the sepulchre where God is buried. He is not buried in any cemetery in this world. He never was. He's buried in the skull of man. That's where he is buried. So, a lady now writes from San Francisco, and she said, you know, I had the strangest dream, and I can't understand it. I met you, and here you are, expounding Scripture. And then you came over to me, and you embraced me, and I pushed you away. And I said, no, Neville, what I did, I do not know. She doesn't say that in her letter. And then she said, I said to her, you know, I would have married you. And she said, but I am married. And I said, yes, I know. But the day will come when you will know that Jerry, that's her husband, and I are one. It is not a union of sex. It's a union of my teaching. Take my yoke upon me, and learn from me, for my yoke is the teaching. So, she loves it. She has the records because she made them herself at the last meeting in San Francisco. So she made 10, and she tells me she plays them over and over, and he made others before that. So, they must have maybe 30 or 40 of these recordings. But she hasn't quite absorbed it, for she could not have said no. There would be no sex in this. It's a union with God. For I am telling you, I became one with him when he embraced me. So we are no longer two. Just as my friend said, I can't use the pronoun, we. I will use now the singular, I. And yet I feel your presence, and I am you. And yet I haven't lost my identity. And I can tell you, from my own experience, we're all the sameness of identity. When this thing happens, there is a radical change in form. It's not this form at all. It's spirit. Now take these words and see if you aren't shocked by them. In the book of Proverbs, the 8th chapter, the 22nd verse, the Lord created me at the beginning of his way, the first of his acts of old. Look at the word beginning, at the beginning of his way. And this is the definition given in Strong's Concordance: to shake the head, the top. The beginning is when that head of yours vibrates. So you think this is the end, and it's only then the beginning. When your head so vibrates that you think this is it, meaning to yourself, never having experienced anything comparable to this, that this is the end of what the world would call. Now, you're dying. Far from dying, the Lord shook the head. He vibrated the head, and that vibration woke you. Who did he wake? If you would be asked, who heard it? And who actually was wakened when he heard it and felt it? You would answer, I am wakened. And who found himself within the tomb and knew it to be his own skull? You would answer, I. And who then knew how to come out? You would say, I. And who came out? You would say, I. And who found the child and knew it to be his own? I. So the I is buried in there, and it's God. And it comes with the vibration of the head when the whole head begins to shake. It is the shaking of the head. Rosh, we have a new year. We speak of Rosh Hashanah. Rosh is the shaking of the head. It's not another year passed by, and I mark it off the calendar and go to another year. This is an entirely new age when that head shakes. You can mark off year after year. We call this now the year 1972. And the Jews speak of their year going back over 5 centuries, meaning 5,000 years. But that's not the Rosh of the Rosh Hashanah that Scripture speaks of. It speaks of the shaking of the head, of the top. And then it goes on to say, the firstborn, the first fruit. All these are the definitions given to Rosh. When the head begins to shake, then you come out, and you are born from the top. You are born from God, and all ends run through the origins. So if the origin is God, the end is God. It is God that is born. So then you are in this world. You are now only an extension of the Lord, for he extends himself in those that are born from above, but all will be born from above. And that's how God expands and expands and expands himself. So, he has put eternity into the minds of men, yet so that man cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. Nevertheless, at that end, he does make known his purpose. As Paul said in his letter to the Ephesians, he's made known unto us the mystery of his will, according to his purpose, which he sent forth in Christ as a plan for the fullness of time. So, when the fullness of time came, God sent forth his Son, who is Christ, which is David crying in our heart, Father. And we look up, and he is your son. And he has called you Father. Who did he call Father? He's calling you God, Father. And God is your own wonderful I am. Who is he calling? He is calling me Father. I am his Father. And everyone is going to have that experience. So, in the end, as my friend had the experience, we are one. We are not two. I dwell in them, and they dwell in me, and we are one. Keep them in my name, O Holy Father. And the love that thou gavest me is the love you give them, that they may be one as we are one. So, I am not a God afar off, said he. I am a brother and a friend. But many will not believe it. And he turns down, tired and weary, he turns down that is God. He won't believe it. He can't believe that the one he dislikes is himself. He can't believe it, that the man who stole from him this day is himself. He can't believe that the man who gave him good this day is himself. They're all separate. And I'm not saying that you're going to be absorbed. As her words are beautifully told in her letter, I felt your presence. The identity was there. No question about it. But for all the sameness of identity, we are one. I didn't lose my identity, and yet I am. And I am you. And your presence is an identity. And yet I cannot use the plural in speaking of. We are floating on the water. So, she was filled with wine. Are we not told in Paul's letters to Timothy, drink no more water, use a little wine for your stomach's sake and your many infirmity. Do not constantly absorb the law and apply only the law toward the getting of things in this world. From now on, let it become wine. Let it become spirit, so it becomes a part of you. So, you drink wine, not the little bottle of wine, although I'm very fond of wine. I love it. I had my full bottle of wine today with some cheese for my lunch, and thoroughly enjoyed a bit of wine, and, a section of Edom. Thoroughly enjoyed it. But that's not the wine spoken of in Scripture. The wine is the transforming of the water into wine. That psychological law is forever. Apply it towards becoming the man, becoming the woman that you want to be. But it's enough, after a while, to become this, become that, become the other. Set your hope fully upon the grace that is coming to you, at the unveiling of Jesus Christ within me. When the Father is unveiled, and he can only be unveiled to his Son, who reveals you as his Father. And that is the story. So, he has put, yes, I would use the word eternity. I use the word world. For he has put everything within you. You don't have to go outside of self to find anything. You find it within. And by applying the principle, you rest, having done what you are supposed to do, and let it come to pass. But do not forget what my friend so wisely said in quoting these passages from Scripture, that he finds it so difficult, trained as he is. He's a college graduate. He's a professional psychiatrist, teaching psychiatry to many. And he finds it difficult not to claim that his own intellectual powers brought these to pass. Even though he remembers that there was a moment in time when he, not intellectually, but when he imagined the state by denying the evidence of the senses, by denying reason, or reason did not come into it, because he denied what he is now doing in imagination, and having done it, he forgot it. And then, in good time, it happened in this world, and he reaped the harvest of what he did in imagination. But he said, I find it so difficult, trained as I am, not to take the credit. And that's exactly what these passages that he quoted in the Scripture are against. They will not give the credit where it belongs. They have taken it to themselves, their own puffed up intellectual state. And this whole vast scene is so unlike what the world believes it to be. The whole vast world. I haven't time tonight to develop it. I will on Monday, to show you that everything in this world, on this level, is so unlike what it is on the next higher level. And man can't believe it until he's had that experience. He can't believe that this is not what it appears to be, but I'll show it to you on Monday. But hear that most disputed verse in the book of Ecclesiastes, the 11th verse of the 3rd chapter. And God has put eternity into the mind of man, yet so that men cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end, but in the fullness of time shows it to those to whom he now comes at the end of time. He does not consign them to silence. They may go and tell it to the best of their ability exactly how it happened. So, when Ecclesiastes tell us that we will never find out, now in the end, you do find out God's own purpose. You find his mystery, and his mystery is to actually, literally, give himself to us. That's his steadfast love forever, and that is forever. And thy name will endure forever. That is Olam. The word everlasting, he has made an everlasting covenant with me. That word is Olam. David's last words in the 2nd book of Samuel, the 23rd chapter. And he has made with me an everlasting covenant. And that word is Olam. It is forever and forever. And so he will now be a witness for all generations. He will always come at that appointed moment when I need to be revealed as to who I am. And then he will rise, and here I look into the face of my son. But I know that Scripture told me he was God's son. But I have no feeling of God as another. He has so become me that I am his father. So, he was perfectly right in saying, I can't use the plural. I can't say we are his father. He has so become me that I am his father. And so, she in the floating, filled with wine, and may I tell her, don't be embarrassed, because you said you are filled with swine. The pig has been the symbol of the Savior throughout all the generations. And so, you've eaten of it. You've eaten his blood. You drank his blood, and you ate his flesh, which means you actually absorb the teaching. That's how you eat it. You eat it by absorbing the teaching. Now, another friend of mine, she's here tonight, and she writes, but here I had this vision. I am in a cathedral, and there is an enormous choir, and there are 2 persons present writing out announcements of my death. And I say it, but I am not dead. Look, I am alive, but they're all writing out announcements, announcing my death. Then the choral group burst forth into this most glorious hallelujah, this song of praise. Hallelujah, praise Jehovah. That's what the word would mean. And I joined in with the chorus singing of my own death. Death of what? It is death to his level, death to this level. She is joined with the choral group in singing her own departure from this level, moving into another level. So, I'm telling you, you are all awakening. My letters are now becoming more and more along this line. This week, I must have received at least 2 dozen. I had to give one today to a friend of mine to answer. Please answer this for me, because I don't have the time. And yet I hunger for the letters. But if it demands an answer, and this one did, an interpretation, because they're not here, they are 1,000 miles away. And naturally that has to be answered. But you who are here, I can answer your letters from the platform. But those would come, like my friend from San Francisco. I haven't answered that yet. It's been there for 10 days, but I may get to it this weekend. But I have so much to do at home with my wife that I do not have the time to answer letters. If I could answer them from the platform, it's a tremendous help. So here, I hope I have convinced you this night how wonderful you are that you were chosen, not by some head of government. What would it matter tonight if you had the Stalin medal, and so many were given this Stalin medal and the Hitler medal? Well, you should melt it. But to be chosen by the Creator of the universe, He so loved you that He became you, and His name is forever and forever. And His name is I Am, and it's buried in you. That's God in you. Sleep in the feeling of being so wanted, being so chosen, being the elect, and you cannot rise feeling unwanted and feeling shunted in this world. Now let us go into the silence. This being my last Sunday for a year, I wish to leave no doubt in your mind of what I tried to tell you in the last 19 lectures. So I am going to ask a question which you can silently answer yourself. Have you lived this life of yours in such a way that you desire to live it again? Well, if you haven't, you'd better listen very carefully to what I will say this morning. If you have not already started, for may I tell you, the next life is this life. When the eye is opened, you will see it. That man, unless he awakes and changes the tracks of this life, he walks them forever. So if you have not lived this life in such a way that you really desire to live it again, you start now to interfere with these tracks and laying new tracks. Let me give you just one simple little vision. These are all true visions of the speaker. Lying on my bed, suddenly the eye opened, the inner eye opened, and I saw a man, casually dressed in working clothes, walking the sidewalks of a major city. As he came to a hole that was open to receive coal, in fact, the coal had just been delivered, he dropped something from his hand, and bending down instead of picking up the thing, dropped. He picked up huge hunks of coal that were scattered around the hole, and then my vision relaxed. When I reconcentrated the vision, it was on the early part of that scene of the man walking down the sidewalk. He came to the manhole, he dropped as he had in the previous state. Bending down, he picked up the coal as he had done before. Everything was in detail. As I saw it for the second time, I said, now that scene hasn't changed one iota. My attention again relaxed. When I reconcentrated it, it was on the early part of the scene. Now I could prophesy for that man. I knew exactly what he would do every moment of time, right up to that manhole, that he would drop his package and not pick it up, but pick up the coal. I knew he would look into that manhole and then change his mind, either because someone below saw him pick it up and he didn't want the consequences of his action, or else he had a change of heart. But I knew in detail what that man would do. We are walking tracks, and the tracks are forever. And by the mere curvature of time, your next life is this life. You simply replay it. So if you have not so played it that you are proud of it, you start now and you start the change today. We have given you a system by which you change it. For those who haven't heard why I say you walk tracks, you are standing forever in the presence of an infinite and eternal energy. And from this energy, all things proceed. But they proceed according to pattern. Energy is moving in a certain pattern, and you determine the pattern that it takes, for you actually lay down these tracks within you. That energy flows over by the use of your inner conversations. This energy, I call it now mine, follows the tracks laid down in a man's own inner talking. So, if your inner conversations are not what they should be, I ask you today to start carrying on conversations within yourself from premises of fulfilled ideals, the man you want to be, the woman you want to be. If you have failed so far to embody it, Now you begin to assume that you are that man, that you are that woman, and inwardly carry on conversations with your friends, those that respect you, or those you want to respect you, and carry on these conversations from the premises that they see in you, the man and the woman, that you want the world to see, just as though you were. And these words, inner words, which are really the breeding ground of future action, will lay down new tracks, and then the energy which is always flowing will flow over these tracks, and the conditions and the circumstances of life will change. If you do not lay new tracks, I will prophesy for you. You will find yourself repeating it, but you will not know. You've done it before. If I could only take you now into the inner vision with me and show you this room rising, everything rising in detail, like a three-dimensional curtain, ascending, but everything is moving up, and yet it remains. It is so altogether automatic that it ascends every moment of time. The whole world is ascending, and as it ascends, the world remains the same. It's almost as though not a thing has happened, and so you can't see it. But if the inner eye opens, you see it ascend. And as it leaves off, that which begins is the duplicate, the perfect duplicate of the thing that rose, and it rises in a three-dimensional manner. So that when a man goes over these tracks, he is totally unaware that he has walked them forever. So I bring you a message to make you conscious. Man must awake from the dream, where he is simply an automaton. He moves like a machine, then he begins to awake, and when he awakes, then he is not that man at all that he seemingly in the past played for eternity. He awakes into a new being, a new man. Now the new man is a man of new conversations. As told you in Ephesians, put off the former conversations. They belong to the old man that is corrupt, and put on the new man by a transformation of mind. And the new man is identified with completely new words. He speaks only the kind things. He is incapable of any unlovely thought in the world. He is incapable of even listening to the unlovely, for inwardly he speaks only the kind, only the loving things of the world. Then he finds himself awakening a man within that was asleep. He awakens the second man, which is called Christ Jesus in the Bible, which I tell you now is your own wonderful, loving imagination. When imagination awakes, it is incapable of being exercised in any way outside of the loving way. So every time you use your imagination lovingly, you are literally awakening this inner man, and you're mediating God to man. If I think of anyone in a loving way, I'm in contact with that being, and God flows toward him. Now, because this is my last Sunday, I will give you what I gave the class last Friday. Do not see it just as some metaphorical picture. See it as an actual picture. Imagine yourself at the very base of a wonderful waterfall, and that water is flowing beautifully on you. And imagine it's flowing through you, and now from you, and flowing towards someone you think of. I make this statement because it's a true statement. We are now in Eden, but we are asleep, as told you in the 2nd of Genesis. Man went sound asleep when he was placed to dress it and to keep it. To awake, do this. Just imagine yourself the center through which water radiates, and everyone in this world is rooted in me and ends in me as I am rooted in and end in God. So I am in God's garden. It's Eden. But in God's garden, every man in the world has a plot, a little garden. In that garden, there are trees that grow. You can see them. If I look at this man now and inwardly look at his plot, in my garden, I will see the trees. Some will be called health. Some I call wealth. The tree of dignity, the tree of nobility, the tree of being wanted. They may be withered, they will never really die, but they may be withered. They are in need of water. Just imagine that you are watering that plant and see in your mind's eye the leaves appear on what formerly was a barren plant. See the fruit appear, and wherever he is in the world, as you water his garden, which really is your own garden, as you water it, he will embody the very qualities that the tree is now beginning to bear and radiate. You name the tree, whatever you name it, that it is. And you name this one if you know he is unwanted. He wants to be wanted. You name it and let the water flow towards it. Imagine it's growing healthily in that garden and see it put out its leaves and see it put out its fruit. Wherever he is in the world, he will begin to be wanted by people in his world. If he is unemployed, it's a tree of employment, and see it radiate its leaves and radiate its fruit. He will be wanted, and he will be gainfully employed. I tell you, this is not just an idle statement. Everyone here can do it, and everyone should do it. And whenever you water the tree in anyone's garden, at the same time, you are watering your own garden in the eternal one of God. For I am the vine, and ye are the branches. Every man can say the same thing. So as you rise here, there are 2,600 of you. You individually are the central vine of God's garden, and everyone in your world is a branch in that vine. So when I, as a central vine, water a branch in my garden, at that same moment, I am being watered, and my garden is being watered in your wonderful garden. I don't have to water my own. Just by taking care of the many gardens in God's Eden, I take care of my own garden that is in the vine of everyone in the world. You try it, and you can bless everyone in the world, and then eventually the eye opens, the ear opens, the inner man awakes, and you see the most glorious world, which is always here to be seen. Only we in our sleep had shut it out. We shut the whole wonderful golden world out by going to sleep and becoming an automaton. But take me seriously, for your next life is this life. You make this life what you want to make it. Because if you don't, you will find yourself automatically, and you won't even know it. Because as a sleeping person, you don't know you are walking the same track. But if I could only take you within me and let you see with the eye of the inner eye and watch these automatons in the world, sleeping people. Yes, the eye is open and they seem to be awake, but they're really sound asleep, for they're repeating the same thing. Now become conscious. As you become conscious, you enter the most glorious circle of awakened humanity. I call it the conscious circle of humanity. Or as my old teacher used to call it, the brothers. It simply means the awakened man. And when he awakes, they're all glorious beings, for they are all the image of the Divine One. So try it today with the art of revision. At the end of this day, review today. If some unlovely thing in the day, don't allow it. You rewrite it. Take that same scene and rewrite it. And having rewritten it, replay it. In your imagination, you imagine the action to be unfolding, and you replay everything in the world. As you replay it, as you ought to have played it the first time, you've changed it. And the moment is never receding, as people think. The moment is advancing. Now, this may seem an insane statement to tell you, that yesterday is today's future. It seems insane. You think it's not. It's past. But by the curvature of time, you will discover, but you will not know it, because you will be asleep unless you begin to awaken, and you will come upon what is yesteryear in your future. For the moment is never receding. It is always advancing into the future to confront us. And so, If you don't change it, you will simply find yourself repeating over and over what, luckily in God's infinite mercy, that sleep shuts out the memory of it. So you are doing it, and you think you're doing it for the first time. But I ask you to awake for the purpose of this platform. It's to awaken everyone who comes here, that we may all enter this brotherhood of awakened humanity. Now, we are told there were 2 gifts given to man at birth. It doesn't mean this little birth when I left my mother's womb, but when I left the womb of my father. That is the grand womb, the womb of creation. When, before the world was, he created me and made me perfect and set me in this world for a purpose, educative purpose. But he gave me 2 gifts. He gave me his own mind, and he gave me the gift of speech, the very thing he used to create a world. So he spoke the world into being, and then gave me the gift by which he spoke the world into being. So he gave me mind and speech. If I use the gift wisely and do it rightly, I will be led into the realization, into the fulfillment of my every desire. Not one is beyond my ability to realize. If I continually use it wisely, when I quit the body, as the world calls a man dead, when I leave this into another dimension, by the wise use of the same 2 gifts, I will be brought into the company of the blessed if I awake. If I don't use it wisely, I continue my circle of sleep. If I use it wisely, I will break the circle of recurrence and rise beyond it into eternity. If I don't, I continue on the curved line of time and repeat it over and over until someday I awake. For I am destined to be conformed to the image of his Son. So I have no doubt that everyone will awake. But why not start the awakening process now? And you start it by practicing the art of revision. You try it. Don't treat it idly. I ask you, and I beg you to read and read over and over again the chapter, The Pruning Shears of Revision, and take it day after day, and never let the sun descend upon your wrath. Any vexation or any problem of the day, resolve it before you sleep, and carry that resolved picture into sleep, and you will find the inner man awakening. But you try it with your friends, and that you are the grand waterfall. The Bible speaks of water. The mystic knows it does not mean water, it means truth. And so, when I see anyone in my mind's eye and see him free, I am giving him the only truth that will set him free. So if I water his plant, imagine the water is really going to it, and I see the leaves begin to appear, and that man becoming free. He becomes healthy, he becomes secure, he becomes loved. Then those trees are growing beautifully in my garden. And so as I do that, not only will he benefit from my watering his plant, but I will benefit. I will begin to awaken. So I ask everyone here to really try it. Now I know today the title was The Coin of Heaven, but this being the last day, I thought I would simply give a sort of quick summary of what I have tried to tell you. For the purpose behind the 19 lectures was to stimulate you to interfere with your time track, that you may do something about it, for the passage of time cannot change it. If you wait, thinking there is going to be some change beyond the grave, I tell you, you will wait in vain. There is no transforming power beyond the grave. All transforming power is in man, now, to interfere with his time track, and you interfere with it by simply changing one moment in the course of a day, not accepting it as final, no matter how factual the day. You know you did have that experience. Don't allow the day to descend upon it and say, well, I did have it. Go back to that moment in time. Rewrite it, replay it in the revised version, and do it over and over in your imagination until that takes on the tones of reality. As it takes on the tones of reality, you have changed your future. Take another incident and change it, and keep on changing all the little episodes, all the little experiences, and make them conform to a more idealistic experience and relive it. If anyone is here for the first time, you might think, well, that's fooling yourself, but you try it. Try it and see if the inner man will not awaken. And when he awakens, you will see a world that is automatic. You will see a world that's a machine, and the whole vast world playing their parts that they played forever and will continue to play on the curvature of time forever until he snaps out of it and rises from the dead. As you are told, awake, you that sleep, and rise from the dead. The state called sleep now is likened unto death, where the son has died. So we are told the second son, the prodigal, that when he returned from that cycle and he was met, the father said, he that was lost is found, and he that was dead is alive again. So this state of lostness is likened unto death, and the only purpose now is to rise, not to amass a fortune, although you are entitled to it, not to become famous, although you are entitled to it, but simply to awake from the state of sleep. And I know of no other way to awaken a man unless I can show him how mechanical he is. And if you will take and practice seriously the art of revision, the eye will open, and you will have the experiences the speaker spoke of. You too, lying on your bed, will find the eye peering into a city that may be 2,000 miles away, and there you will see more clearly than I see you now, and you will watch the tracks of a man, and then disinterest. And all of a sudden, you decide to once more to be interested, and you don't have a memory image of the man. You see the whole thing all over again. You see the man walk the same sidewalk. He does everything he did a moment before. Then take it back again. That track is laid forever, and he will walk it forever until he awakes. So I ask everyone here to take me seriously. If this seems a bit too mystical for you, I don't apologize. It's the only thing I can give you. For as I begin to awake, I've got to give you the food on which then me Father feeds me. He feeds me on new ideas. He changes my values. He changes all my meanings in the world. I don't have the same meaning I had last year. I don't have the same values I had last year. For the motives I had last year might have been along a different line. But then, all of a sudden, things change. And you can't place value where formerly you placed it. You can't place it on wealth. You can't place it on names. You can't place it on recognition. All your values change, and then you begin to inwardly see a new, wonderful world. So I tell you, this garden of which I speak is a true garden. This you call the world. Don't believe for one moment you are in exile. This wonderful, visible, objective world of ours is not a place of exile. It's the living garment of my Father. It really is his living garment, but it needs interpreters. Individual men come as they begin to awaken, and they will interpret for you this strange, discordant harmony. For to you, if I tell you everything in your world is related by affinity to your own mental activity, you can't see it, and so you can't quite see this discord as related to you. If you didn't think that way, that you know of, you weren't conscious of it. If you were conscious of the activity within you, you would see everything related to yourself, your own being. What you do not now see, you will still know it is still related. So interpreters come, because the interpreter, as he begins to awaken, he knows this wonderful world has a voice for him that speaks of things behind the veil of your own mind. For behind your face right now, there's an activity of your own imagination. And that activity, could you see it? You would see it projected as the conditions and circumstances of your life. Not one thing is out of order. Change the activity, and you change the world in which you live. And you change that activity by the changing of your inner speech, for speech mirrors your mind, and your mind mirrors God. If you don't change the speech, you haven't changed the activity, and if you don't change the activity, you can't change the conditions of life, for they only come bearing witness of this inner action of your mind. So you want to change? I hope you do. But if you can now reflect upon your life, be it 10 years or be it 60 years, and you can't say within yourself, I would want to live this again if I had the freedom of choice, then you better start right now changing it, because I make you a prophecy. I make you a promise. Your next life is this life. So if you cannot now in reflection say, I desire to live it again, then start today to lay down new tracks, because if you don't, you're going to live it again. And living it again, you won't even know you are living it again. It is so altogether automatic. It's so effortless as you walk the tracks, for you stand in the presence of energy, and you can't stop walking. You've laid them, and you will walk them, and the curvature of time will bring you back and back and back, forever and forever, until you break it and you begin to awaken. And when you awaken, you enter a circle of awakened humanity. And I'll tell you, you know them more intimately than anyone you now know in the state of sleep. There is not a person on earth that you know as intimately as those who have awakened when you awake. When you go into their presence and you mingle with them, you become one. You do not lose your identity. In fact, you tend ever toward greater and greater individualization. You never become absorbed and lose your identity. But as you awaken to the being that you always were, but you had forgotten it and went sound asleep. There is a beauty in the inner man that the outer has never touched, never scarred. And so as you awaken, and they will be there to meet you, because they are awaiting eagerly for the breaking of the circle of recurrence. So you try it. We have told you many things this year, many things that seem too mystical. But I warned you when I took it 4 Sundays ago. This year, I would give you the end of a golden string, and I called upon you to roll it into a ball. And if you did, it would lead you in at heaven's gate, built in Jerusalem's wall. Well, I felt I have given you that string, but I cannot roll it into a ball for you. I promise you, I will water your garden, but it won't awaken you. It will awaken you only to lovelier things in a way, but it will not really break the circle for you. So I offer you now, this day again, the end of the golden string. But I call upon you to wind it and roll it into a ball by the daily application of the principle of revision. By daily watching your inner actions and see if they correspond to the actions you desire to perform in the outer world. Watch your conversations carefully. Are they from premises of fulfilled ideas? If they're not, go back and make them actually correspond to the ideal you want to embody in this world. Start. That is winding it into a ball, and it will lead you in at heaven's gate, built in Jerusalem's wall. I have no doubt in my mind, for I know from experience, that's how I opened up that wall. I opened it up by application. So I warned you every time I have taken the platform that the knowledge you have now is of no avail unless it's applied. A little knowledge, if carried out in action, is more profitable than much knowledge which you neglect to carry out in action. If you had all the knowledge in the world and you didn't put it into practice, you wouldn't awaken. Now here this morning, everyone has heard it. You take it today and start this day revising, and watch the circle begin to snap. Watch the eye begin to open. And I tell you, there isn't a gift on earth, there isn't a possession in the world that you would want more than the opening of the eye when the eye opens. That's why I say, your values change. The meaning of life changes. For you wouldn't sell the eye that opens for all the wealth of the world. You wouldn't exchange it for any recognition in the world, now conferred upon the so-called great. You see the so-called great, all equally sound asleep, playing their parts, walking curved lines, and then you snap it and move into a wonderful world of awakened humanity. And there you see these glorified beings, but really glorified beings, who preceded you into the conscious circle of humanity. And now my time is up. This morning's subject is the four mighty ones. The history of humanity is little else than a long struggle with this infinite riddle, the riddle of the four mighty ones. When Origen, one of the early church fathers, was asked, "Why are there four gospels? Why not one?" he answered, and said, "Because there are four quarters of the heavens, north, south, east, and west, and therefore four quarters of the human soul." The Bible speaks of this riddle, which we will quote from the book of Proverbs. And I will tell you the promises made to the individual and to the nation who can answer or unriddle the riddle. It is veiled throughout, from Genesis to the book of Revelations. The four rivers, the four horsemen, the four creatures around the throne of God, the four men loose and walking in the fire. And the form of the fourth was like the Son of God, and they parted his raiment into four parts, and throughout they speak of the four, but man cannot seem to unriddle the riddle. This morning I hope to do it, and if I do it to your satisfaction, so you walk in it, then certain things should happen to you. Now, let us see what should happen to us. First, let me quote the riddle. It is from the 30th chapter of the book of Proverbs. Who hath gathered the wind in his fist? Who hath bound the waters in a garment? Who hath established all the ends of the earth? What is his name, and what is his son's name? Canst thou tell? For that is the riddle. Can we tell it? Do we know the name of the one who did it? Do we know the son's name, and you follow it closely? The first is spirit, the second is water, and the third is earth. That is the question asked. The first one is about the wind. Well, the wind in all languages, in all ages, has been used as a synonym for spirit, the breath. He speaks of water second. The mystic knows water in the Bible, and all scriptures symbolize psychological truth, the ideas that men entertain as truth, either true or false. If he accepts it and consents to it, he weaves this into a garment, so he wonders who has actually gathered or bound the waters in a garment. And the third, who has established all the ends of the earth, who made it fixed. Who could take this liquid state, that is only a moving state, that is unseen, and objectify it, actually establish a something that is solidly real and make it to others a fact? Do you know the name? What is his name, and what is his son's name? Canst thou tell? Now, let us now turn to the promises. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name, which you read in the 9th Psalm, which all of us love to recite. I will set him on high. When I am set on high, does it mean I am made a king, a president, a dictator, a great giant of industry. It hasn't a thing to do with such exalted positions on earth. For the real journey of a man is up the ladder of awareness, ever-increasing awareness, an awareness of objects, of increasing significance. But I am set on high because I know the name. A bird will not be merely a feathered creature. A bird will be to me what it was to Blake, simply a wonderful delight, a heavenly delight, bringing me a message. Birds will talk to me, not as you understand language, but their very flight will reveal to me God's intent. They will speak to me. Not only trees, birds, everything in the world is the language of God. When man is lifted up, they cease to be objects. They are expressions of meaning. As a book is lifted up in consciousness from merely an object in space to a series of marks on paper, to finally an expression of meaning. As I ascend in consciousness, I lift an object. But if I am lifted up because I know the name, then every object in space ceases to be objects. They have meaning and they are expressing meaning. So I can read the open book of God. A tree now becomes a message. Birds in flight. Why 2 and not 3? Or why 3 and not 10? Why in the form in which they did fly? There is no accident. Everything is the unfolding pages of God's book to the man who is set on high, because he knows the name. The name then becomes, we are told, a strong tower, and the righteous runeth into it and is saved. Now, let us take one more promise, and you answer whether nations know the name. If our priests and our rabbis and our leaders, who should know the name, really know the name. For this is the promise that the prophet gives us in the book of Micah. All the people will walk, everyone, in the name of his God, and we will all walk in the name of the Lord our God. And in that day, all the nations will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, and no nation shall lift a sword against a nation, and they shall learn war no more. And the history of humanity has been the history of war and crime. And these words were penned hundreds and hundreds of years before our era, hundreds of years BC. Only the individual has found the name and become one who took his own sword and turned it into a plowshare. He escaped from the turmoil, the individual mystic, the individually awakened man or woman who found the name in the midst of the struggle. He goes in and finds a Savior in the name. It is a strong tower to him, and now he goes in and he rests. He is lifted up on high, and he sees the unfolding of the time. Now, if nations really knew it, if the word uttered by the priests really was the name, if the rabbi pronouncing the so-called holy word was the name, we would not have war. So the name as sounded by the priesthoods of the world cannot be the name. So what is the name? Let us go back now to the riddle. Who hath gathered the wind in his fist? What imagery? What is the fist? The fist is the symbol of the first letter in the great mystery name of God. The fist is Jod. Now what is a fist? The hand is the one organ of the human body that sets him completely apart from the whole of creation. So it begins the name of God. For without a hand, if I were simply an Einstein, multiplied by the nth number, I would only be a smart monkey. I could not build, I could not fashion, I could not mold, I could not create. I could have all the ideas in the world, but without a hand, I would not be a creator. So here that very first question asked is about the creative being. For the wind is spirit. I am speaking now of the creative spirit. And so it puts it into the form of a fist, who has taken it and gathered all the wind in its fist. So we find the first letter, that is, in the language of the mystic, to be aware. Can you conceive of being any place in this world and not being aware? You may not know who you are. You may not know where you are. You may suffer from total amnesia, but you can never, in eternity, not know that you are. It is the one thing of which man is sure: I am. He knows that he is, and he doesn't know who he is and where he is and what he is, but he cannot stop knowing that he is. So that is the very first question asked. That creative spirit, which is the Jodi, which is simply being aware. The second one, now. Who bound the waters in a garment? When I speak of garments in the Scriptures, they symbolize what the mind wears. When a man is clothed in soft raiment, we are told he is in the king's house, and the kingdom is within. He does not have teachings concerning external life. When a man comes clothed in camel's hair or a leather girdle, these are made from external objects, made from skin, made from hair, the most external thing on a man. So that man's teaching is represented by external things. Therefore, he speaks externally. He does not speak of the kingdom within, he speaks of the things without. That man should do. You have 2 coats. Give one to one who has not any. You have more than you can eat. Give some to one who is hungry. But when one comes wearing soft raiment, he doesn't tell you anything to do on the outside, for he is now clothed with the clothing of the king, and the king is in the kingdom, and the kingdom is within. So we speak now of a garment. A garment simply represents the intelligence of the individual, or what the individual has accepted as true. Now, where we speak of water, he gathers water into a garment, and water is psychological truth. Now, who can take a mere assumption and gather it into something that is altogether real to him, that no one sees, as you would take, say, the cloud, and gather it and form it? And then the third one, who can solidify it? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is his name? Go back to the name. We found that the hand was Jod, and the second letter in the great creative power, known as Jod Hivauhi, is he. He is symbolized as a window. The window of the man is his mind. With my mind I see. With my imagination I see in fashion. So I will now gather in my imagination what I want to be in this world. So I will gather it without the aid of any external force. When I see clearly in my mind's eye what I would like to be, I have gathered this state into a garment. Now, how to solidify it? What is the third letter in the name, this mystery name? The third letter is Vayu, and Vayu is symbolized as a nail. A nail binds together. It joins things together. So I can stand here, and first I am aware, just simply aware. Then I become aware of something, and I become very discriminating, very selective. There are numberless things of which I am aware, but I need not single out one to become identified with it, but I will simply let them all pass through the mind, as it were. Then I will hold upon one, I will arrest one, the kind of man that I would like to be. Well, I will fashion that into a garment. The next step is now bringing it into solidity, which is the VAU. But how do I apply the name to the point where I can use the VAU in my name? I will assume that I am that man. When I walk in the assumption, I am walking in his name. We are told in this state, all will walk in the name of his God. I have found the name, found it within myself as, first, my awareness, my ability to become aware of something, my ability to become not only aware of it, but to become aware of being it. So I walk as though I am the man that I want to be. So I solidify it. And the last letter only bears witness of the internal imagery. For the last letter is another he, so there are 2 he's in the name. a Jod and a Vav. You cannot sound it. Jehovah is not the name. Roughly translated, it is I am. But you have got to tear it apart and know what you mean by I am. For to say, go and tell them, I am, has sent you unto them. When I go to Israel and they ask me who sent you, what is your thought? Just say, I am, has sent me unto you, and then complete it. And tell them, I am that I am. What does it mean? I am that? Yes, that is as it is, because I am as I am. Were I different? That would have to be different. So I am, that mirrors the being that I am. For what I see the world to be is a measure of my own level of consciousness. For whatever it is seen to be is a direct index to the level of consciousness of the observer of the world. It's not the world, I am that. I really am. And that could not be other than what it is, while I remain as I am. The slightest change in my level of consciousness, the slightest change in the feeling of I am this, results in a corresponding change in that, which is the world round about me. Let me now desire peace and actually walk in the name of peace, that there is peace in my world, and I will look upon a world, and I will see peace where others see conflict, for I am only seeing that at all times. So what is my authority? My authority is, I am, has sent me unto you, and I am that I am. Do I know it? If I know it, I will never complain. If I broke my neck, I would know you could not have done it unto me. I did it unto myself. If I find myself in any state in the world, I could not complain, for I have found the law. I have found the name by which all these things are gathered together. All the creative spirit in the world is gathered in the name, and the name is I am. But the name must be torn apart and be shown as four mighty ones, and not just the single. It is all one, but there are four distinct functions of the one. There are not four fingers or four separate beings living in man. God is one, and his name is one, but there are four distinct functions, and you can call them the four Gospels. Call them the four garments that he wore. Call them the four rivers flowing out of Eden. Call them the four creatures surrounding the great throne of God. Call them four, but understand what you mean by the four. So when you walk the earth, can you walk in his name? If I can walk in his name, then I know what built the world, what keeps it sustained, and establishes every end of this fabulous, wonderful universe. It is the name, and the name is simply I am. It is not Jehovah. It is not Christ Jesus. It isn't the Lord. It's not a thing you utter. It's a thing you keep in the silence of the heart, because you know you are, and you don't have to affirm I am in order to be. You simply know that you are, and the one sure thing in this world that everyone knows, he knows that he is, but he doesn't know sometimes who he is. He doesn't know sometime where he is, and sometimes he doesn't know what he is, but at all times he knows that he is. That is the one deep conviction in the heart of every man. So he walks in that, but he has to tear it apart and get understanding of the four mighty ones within him, given to us in a symbolical way in the Jod, He, Vav, He. Those not understanding it within themselves treat it so sacredly, they will even cover the name as they unfold the scroll to read it. Have you ever gone to these wonderful churches and seen them reading a scroll that man himself wrote? For some rabbi wrote that down, yet when he comes to read it, he will cover it, because he must not look upon the name of God. It's a holy name. It's not on paper. It's not on the scroll. He can't even utter it. It's within him as his awareness, his ability to become aware of things, his ability to become aware of being the state, of which formerly he was only aware of, and he walks as it, and then he objectifies it, and it becomes that. So I am that I am. So when a world is described from observation, it is always, as described, revealing the level of consciousness of the describing being. It is not the world that changes automatically if I, in one little way, change within myself. Now today, test it. Test the name. He said, I have kept everything you gave me in your name, and your name and my name are one. We have the same name, so when you spell the Son's name, strangely enough, you start off Jod, He, Vav. When you spell Jesus in Hebrew, it begins Jod, He, Vav. You don't have to go further. That is the creative power. To be aware of, and to be aware of being the state decided on and then. But it's not Jesus. You don't sound Jesus. It's simply in the being's own heart. That's the name. Now, the day we really believe it and are bold enough to walk in that name, there will be peace in the world. If we turn on the outside to an external God, there will be war in the world. For you have denied me, and when you deny the real God, there is confusion and conflict in the world. So any man who turns to a power outside of himself and bows before it as some sacred relic or some sacred object, or in any other way turns to it, he worships idols, for the living God is within you. Ye are the temple of the living God. He's not outside, and to look on the outside is to be led astray. And when you are led astray, you are led into confusion, and nothing but confusion would result, and therefore conflict and war. When a man finds the name and answers the riddle, he is set on high. I can promise you a thrill beyond your wildest dreams when you begin to toy with it and test it. And if you are lifted up even one little level beyond where you now stand, so meaning begins to reveal itself. A world of meaning, there isn't a thing. In the world without meaning, there is no excitant. Not one little thing in the world is without significance. And when you lift in consciousness to the level of meaning, where things take on greater and greater significance, what a world into which man then rises. So the whole thing begins in that 4th verse of the 30th chapter of the book of Proverbs. He asked first, who hath ascended into heaven, and who hath descended? Then he puts the riddle, and the same being that descended is the one that first ascended, and the one that ascended was the one that descended. So this is the great ladder of life, the ladder of consciousness on which the individual descends, here to discover his own being, the 4 mighty ones within him. And when he finds himself completely shut out from that knowledge, and he starts the conflict within himself and discovers within himself the cause of all the phenomena of the world, then he starts to ascend. And the same being that is going to ascend is the one that descended in consciousness to the level of complete and utter confusion. Now, today, to make it practical, as we did in the 2nd chapter of my latest book, I treated it as a drama, and the 4 mighty ones in you, play with it. Call yourself a producer. You are going to produce a play, and the producer in man only suggests the theme. He goes no further. Wouldn't it be wonderful? And you name it. We're I, and you name it. Successful, happy, and you name a certain state. But you go no further. As the Jod, he only suggests the spirit, for he just takes the wind, and that he binds in his fist. He only recommends the motive, the little theme. The second one now, in man that works out, that theme is the author, and the author in man is man's wonderful inner creative power that can take the theme of success and work out the last scene, which implies the theme is realized. What would I do were I successful? What would I see? What would I say? How would I act? Well, then construct one little theme or little scene which implies the fulfillment of my desire. That is now the second mighty one's work. The third mighty one's work in man is the director. The director in man is man's controlled attention, so that my attention must be completely absorbed in the single idea, the idea which implies the fulfillment of my wish. Now, the fourth one is the one whose form is like unto the Son of God. Now, who is the fourth one in man that will now do it? Man's imagination. Man's real being is a splendid imagination. An imagination has form, but man does not understand it, and man doesn't believe it. But the real being is imagination. It can be anything in this world, and so he puts himself through the paces by simply inwardly enacting the drama that he himself has constructed, and whatever it would be that he has constructed. Which drama implies the fulfillment of his theme, he inwardly acts it over and over and over again until it takes on the tones of reality. When inwardly he feels natural in the part that in which he is now, SE1F rehearsed, the curtain will rise and he will see it there. He will cast the inner drama on the screen of space, and he will see moving on the screen of space all the characters necessary to complete the play. He doesn't have to consciously direct one of them. They become relevant to his theme, and because they are relevant, they are drawn into the drama without their knowledge, without their consent. Any change in the drama must take place within him and not them. So he never appeals to one on the outside to change. He leaves them just as they are, and he rewrites the play within himself and changes the end. As he changes the end, the whole cast are cast in different roles and have moved back into his world to complete his play. So the four mighty ones in Manmai be likened to the producer, the author, the director, and the actor, the four most important members in the production of a play, and this is a play. The whole vast world is a play. This is a stage, but this actual movement and the actual drama is not taking place out there. It has been conceived, dramatized, rehearsed, and completely enacted elsewhere. When you see it here, it is as much a screen as when you see a picture on this screen later on today. You cannot appeal to the actress to change. They cannot even hear you. Any change in the script must take place where it first originated, not here. This is only a screen. So, as Blake said, all that you behold, though it appears without, it is within, in your imagination, of which this world of mortality is but a shadow. So when you find the four mighty ones, you have found the name, and when you find the name, you will be set on high. You will run into it like a strong tower and be saved, and there will be peace in your world. If a nation finds it, there will be complete peace in the world. If the individual finds it, it is peace in his world, though the whole vast world rages. In his world there shall be peace. Not a thing will touch him, for he has found the name, and the purpose of this whole vast journey is to find the name and the Son's name. If I find the Father's name, his name is just like mine. So I have found my name, and the name ceases then to be Neville. It ceases to be John, to be Mary, but you never utter it. It is your sacred trust. You tell it to no one. You keep everything in the name, but you don't tell it. In other words, you will call yourself by some other tag, but the real name is covered from sight, because you, yourself, cover it. You walk in the name. Now you can try it and see if I have told you the truth this morning. See if you cannot conceive of things today and identify yourself with it. Remain faithful to that association and see if that association will not result in a corresponding state in the outer world. Boldly assume that you are the one that you want to be. Remain faithful to the assumption and see if it will not establish itself and become hardened into fact. And you will know then the one who really establishes all the ends of the earth. For your earth will be anchored down and bearing witness of the man, the woman, that you have conceived yourself to be. Then you will be free of the greatest tyranny in the world. And the greatest tyranny in the world is the belief in the secondary cause. There is no second cause. There is only first cause. And the cause of everything is the name. But when you don't know it, well then, you blame another. And I cannot conceive of a greater tyranny than the belief in a second cause. There is only one God, expressing himself as four mighty ones within the individual. So think now of your personality as something that is informed by this mighty selfhood, but informed by it in respect to its level of consciousness in varying degrees. On one level, I am informed as to the language of birds. On another level, the language of trees. And on another level, the language of the motion of clouds. Every little formed cloud is telling me something. Every little ripple is telling me something. On a certain level, the language is revealed. On a lower level, it is simply an object moving in space. Lift up the object only, any object, and it takes on increasing significance. And what a thrill when man so lifts himself that everything is talking and telling him of the kingdom within himself, that not one little thing is by accident, that the bird that seemingly is wild and simply lit in your yard, just for a moment, on its way south or north, did not by accident light. It brought a message, and every little thing in the world is telling you something when you rise in consciousness. And you rise in consciousness the day you find the name and walk in it. For I will set him on high because he hath found my name. He knows my name. The only reason for the lifting up was the knowledge of the name. So you take this morning's drama, enact it within yourself, and see if you, yourself, cannot prove to your own satisfaction. You have found the name by changes in consciousness. Not only here, but your dreams will change. Your visions will change. Everything will change, for you have changed. And the success, or rather the change, or the cause of all change is you. No other cause. If you change, everything will change. And now my time is up. As you have been told, this morning's subject is seed time and harvest. Although it bears the same title as my latest book, it is not to be found in that book, for that book is an attempt to interpret some of the more difficult passages of the Bible. I have given you in the 9 chapters a mystical view and also a certain approach how you yourself may approach the interpretation of the Bible. For as you know, it is not a book of history. And so, when I became aware of deeper meanings in the passages than those normally assigned to them, I began to see them or to apprehend them mystically. And so I have given you a mystical interpretation of many of the darker passages. For instance, when Solomon made himself a chariot of the wood of Lebanon, he made himself. No one made it for him. That's what you must do. That's what I must do. That's what everyone must do. And in that chapter, I showed you the wood is not wood, as you know wood. It means the wood of Lebanon is the incorruptible mind. But you make it for yourself. And we showed you the sides, what they were made of, and what the meanings really are. Then we took that very strange passage, the instruction to the disciples to take off their shoes or provide no shoes when they travel, and we showed you the word shoe is not just the thing I wear on my foot. It is the symbol of the Spirit of, let me do it for you. For the shoe takes upon itself not only the dirt and the muck that would normally fall upon the wearer's foot, but it protects the wearer from any contact with the outer world. And so, anyone who offers to do for us what we should do and could do far better ourselves is offering himself as our shoe. And if I would awaken spiritually, I must do it for myself. I must take my own mind and control it, take my wonderful imagination and actually control it, and set it to noble purposes, and not have some intermediary come between myself and God. For the God of this world is an internal God. He is that inevitable force that expresses in outward facts the latent tendencies of the soul. And so, if I would discover that, God, I cannot have you do my work for me, I cannot have you eat my spiritual food and expect to grow spiritually. So that is really the attempt of the 9 chapters in the book Seed Time and Harvest. But this morning's subject, I want to approach it differently. This statement is taken from the book of Genesis, the 8th chapter of Genesis. It is a promise made to man that while the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, hot and cold, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. We are told that man was placed in a garden. The garden was completed. Every tree was bearing fruit. Everything in the world was finished. And he was placed in the garden to dress it and to keep it. He doesn't plant it. He doesn't do a thing but dress it and keep it. He is not called upon to make trees or to grow new trees. Everything is finished. As we are told in John, I have sent you to reap that, whereon you bestowed no labor, for creation is finished. Every conceivable human drama, every little plot, every little plan in the drama of life is already worked out as mere possibilities while we are not in them. But they are overpoweringly real when we are in them. So man can get in touch with that particular state of his choice. For my imagination can put me in touch inwardly with the state desired, so I am in it. If I am in it, I will realize it in my world. The states in which we find ourselves are the seed time. The harvest is simply the encountering of events and circumstances of life. But man's memory is so short, he forgets the seed time. But all ends run true to origins. So if the origin, say, is misfortune, the end will be misfortune. But when you reap misfortune, you wonder, why should it happen to me? When have I set a thing like this in motion? Haven't I given to the poor? Haven't I attended service? Haven't I prayed daily? And why should these things happen? But you see, my God never forgets, because he always gives the end in harmony with the origin. And you and I are selectors. We don't make. We are not creators. Creation is finished. The whole vast world of creation has told us in Ecclesiastes, I am the beginning and the end. There is nothing to come that has not been and is. So look upon creation as finished. And you and I are only selectors of that which is. By selectors, I mean that you and I have the privilege. We may not exercise it, but it is our privilege to select that aspect of reality to which we will respond. And in responding to it, we bring it into existence for ourselves. Not knowing that we are so privileged, we simply go through the world reflecting the circumstances of life, not realizing we have the power to create or to outpicture the circumstance of life. So now let us now analyze what I personally mean by seed time. If everything is finished and completed, then why the promise there shall be seed time and harvest as long as the earth remains. Now, seed time, to those who are here this morning, as we should really know, we are not taking it literally. Our seed time is that moment in time when you and I react to anything in this world. It may be to an object, it may be to an individual, it may be to a bit of news that we have overheard. But the moment of reaction, that emotional response, is our attitude. Our attitudes are the seed times of life. And although we may not remember the seed time or the moment of response, nature never forgets. And when it suddenly appears in our world, that suddenness is only the emergence of a hidden continuity. It was continuous from the moment of reaction until it appeared in the world. Its appearance in the world is harvest. So you and I may harvest anything we desire, but we must first have a seed time. It must be preceded by a moment of response or an attitude. How often you say, I approached it in the wrong attitude, or he is in the wrong attitude, or you must change your attitude if you would get on in this life. I have said it, you have said it, maybe we have said it to each other, but we know the importance of right attitude. We know this much, that I can change my attitude if circumstances change. That's automatic. We know that if something happens suddenly in my world, of which up to that moment I was not aware, I, becoming aware of a change of circumstance, would automatically produce in myself a change of attitude. We all do that, morning, noon, and night, but that's not important. That is a reflect of life. 99% of the world reflect life. Now, can I consciously, can I voluntarily, can I deliberately produce in myself a change of attitude, one of my own discretion, one that I myself single out, and not one that is determined by or in any way is dependent on a stimulus of a change in the object itself? Must you change before I will change my attitude towards you? We know that if you do change, I will change my attitude towards you. But must I go through life simply reflecting these changes in the objects? And can I not deliberately determine the change prior to the change in the object? For if I can, I am moving towards complete control of my fate and becoming the master of my fate. If I can assume an active, positive attitude and not depend upon changes in the object for changes in myself. If I can do it, I really am, if not a complete master, I am becoming more in control of the circumstances of life. But 99% of the world waits for things to happen on the outside, and then they reflect. That's no accomplishment at all. If we would awaken and become real selectors of the beauty of this garden that God gave us, so that we can single out that particular aspect to which we will respond, then we will do it by deliberately changing our attitude towards life itself. There is a little fable given us to show us how it is done. If you will study the fable carefully, you will see the importance of imagination. The fable is the fable of the fox and the grapes. You all know it. When he failed to obtain the grapes, then he persuaded himself that the grapes were sour, and by imagining the grapes to be sour, he evoked in himself a change of attitude. He no longer felt about the grapes as he formerly felt. Now that's a little fable on a negative tone or a tragic tone. You and I take the same story, but now we put it on a positive tone. We contemplate our ambitious dream, our noble concept of life. It may seem we haven't the talents to realize it. Instead of saying what the fox did, that the thing is beyond us, and therefore it is sour anyway, we can take the same technique and wonder what it would be like had we realized it? What would the feeling be like were we, and we name it? If I can contemplate what the feeling would be like were I the man that I want to be, were you the person that you want to be, and rejoice in that state as though it were true, I am producing in myself that emotional response necessary for seed time. I may not see an immediate harvest. Maybe the thing that I am now giving expression to in the form of seed time is an oak. It is not a little mushroom that would grow overnight. Maybe my dream would take a little longer interval of time between the actual planting and the reaping. But if I know that all these things are consistent, see yonder fields. The sesamum was sesamum, the corn was corn, the silence and the darkness knew. So is a man's fate born. So, if that moment of response is the actual planting of the seed, and if it was corn, it must be corn when it appears in harvest time, then I can select the nature of the things I want to encounter in my world. I can take not just Neville as a man. I can take the request first of my circle, my intimate circle, as a family man. My wife's desires for her child, for her husband, for herself, the child's desire for itself, and move beyond my little circle as a family man into the circle of friendships, move beyond that into my acquaintances, move beyond that into total strangers, impersonal states. But if I know the law holds good, no matter when I operate it, if I do it unconsciously or consciously, you get results regardless, and the results are in harmony with the planting, with the actual seed team. Now, what is now our seed team today? There are maybe 2,000 odd here. We have 2,000 odd different requests, multiplied by a large number because we have requests for others. But you can take today, as you sit here, and you can actually contemplate what it would be like. Suppose it were true. Suppose I could turn now to a friend and rejoice with him because of his good fortune, and actually carry on a mental conversation with him from the premise that he or she has already realized the dream. Now, as I do it in my imagination, I am setting up within myself a certain change attitude in regard to that individual. I am producing within myself a certain positive, deliberate, emotional response, and that very moment that I do it is seed time. I will encounter that individual tomorrow, or next week, or next month, and he will bear witness of that thing I plant now. He may be totally unaware that I planted it in this garden. I am not seeking his praise. I am not seeking credit. I am seeking results. If I see the man become the embodiment of the success I know that he desires, and I desire for him, that's praise enough, that's payment enough. What more payment would anyone desire other than the results? For everything is a gift. Why should I be given more? My Father gave me the garden. The whole thing is in complete and full bloom, and gave me choice. The greatest gift of all, complete freedom of choice of the nature of the fruit I will reap in my world. But I cannot just barge into the garden and start picking fruit. There must be a seed time, but I must always bear in mind I will reap that whereon I bestowed no labor. I don't labor to make it so, I simply plant it. For in that moment of response is contained all the plans, all the energy necessary to unfold that plan into a perfect, wonderful objective fact, which I will then harvest by becoming aware of it as an external reality. But I don't labor to make it so. I simply must know it is so. So that is our privilege. That is our choice. If you believe it, aren't you amazed at the kind of things that you planted, at the kind of seed time that in our ignorance, in our sleep, we allowed to actually scatter in our world? You see, some will say, but why does God allow it? You cannot conceive of an infinite God that is not infinite in every respect. If I was incapable, actually incapable of assuming, say, an unlovely state, I could not be my Father's son because my Father is infinite. And if he were actually incapable of assuming any state, then he would not be God. Everything is within me, but everything. You cannot conceive of something that I don't contain. The most horrible thing in the world, were it not so, I could not be infinite, and therefore not the son of my infinite Father. So God is infinite and gave us everything, but he gave us freedom of choice that we may become selective, discriminative, and bring out everything that is beautiful out of that God. If I took the piano, the 88 notes of the piano, if I could extract from that piano keyboard every discord, I would not have a piano keyboard. If I could strike a discord, and because it frightens me or it disturbs me, the thing grates upon my nerves, if I could now extract the notes that produce the discord, and then keep on extracting the notes that produce the discord, I would remove the 88 notes. There would be no notes left on, which I could play tomorrow's harmony. But let me leave the notes and learn the art of playing the piano, so I can from the same 88 notes bring out all the harmonies of the world. The same thing is true of man. Instead of looking at someone and accepting as final the evidence of the senses, there is someone who brought out into his own world, say, disease. He is trying to analyze it from the outside. When did I contract the bug? When did I come in close contact with someone who had the bug, and they are taking me into the laboratory with my blood and try to find it there. You will never find it there, in spite of all the wisdom of man. You will find it only in the consciousness of the individual who, at a moment now long forgotten, planted the thing he is now harvesting. And you are not going to find it in any external analysis at all, because things seen were never made of things that do appear. You are warned time and time again in all the books of the Bible, but especially in that 11th chapter of the book of Hebrews, that things seen were not made of things that do appear. But no man believes it. He insists on finding it in things seen. So he extracts my blood, he extracts a little piece of my skin, and he starts to make an analysis of that. And he will tell me, yes, he has found it. It's in my blood. I am not denying he has found it. In my blood. But why is it in my blood? It is in my blood, or in my body, or in my world, because at some point in time, I, exercising the right as a free child of God, singled out some unlovely state relative to another. It need not be to myself. It could be to another, wherein I rejoiced in the hurt of another, where my emotional response to the news I heard was good. So I set it in motion. But when it happened in my world, I did not think it was so good, but it was my harvest. And all these things are the harvest of things you and I have planted. For all things run true to form. Don't be surprised at the suddenness in our world. Someone is ill. It is only sudden because we have forgotten. And man's memory is very, very short. You know that lovely little poem of George Meredith, "Forgetful is green earth. The gods alone remember everlastingly. They strike remorselessly and ever like for like. By their great memories the gods are known." If man could only remember these moments of seed time, he would never be surprised when the harvest appears in his world. But because he has no memory as to that moment in time when he dropped that seed, which is simply his emotional response to something he contemplated something he overheard, something he observed. At that moment, the thing was done. He didn't have to labor to bring it to harvest. He simply encountered it as something already full grown. So he reaps now that on which he bestowed no labor, outside of choice. He selected it by his attitude, by his reaction. Now, am I responsible for others in my world? I certainly am. When I take my little mind, my little imagination, and think because it's mine, my Father gave it to me, that I can simply misuse it. It isn't going to hurt another. I tell you, you do have to use more control, for the simple reason I am rooted in you, and you are rooted in everyone, and all of us are rooted in God. There is no separate individual detached being in my Father's kingdom. We are one. I am completely responsible for the use or misuse of my imagination. Do you recall seeing on TV a dramatized version of the sinking of the Titanic? Do you recall it? Have you read the book, A Night to Remember? Well, the book itself is by Walter Lord. But 14 years before the actual harvest, or that frightful event of the sinking of the Titanic, a man in England wrote a book. He conceived this fabulous Atlantic liner, and there he built her, just like the Titanic, only the Titanic was not built for 14 years. But he, in his imagination, conceived the liner of 800 feet. She was triple screw. She carried 3,000 passengers. She carried few lifeboats because she was unsinkable. She could make 24 knots, and then one night he filled her to the brim with rich and complacent people. And on a cold winter night, he sunk her on an iceberg in the Atlantic. 14 years later, the White Star Line builds a ship. She is 850. She is a triple screw. She can make 24 knots. She can carry 3,000 passengers. She has not enough lifeboats for passengers, but she too is labeled unsinkable. She is filled to capacity with the rich, if not complacent, but the rich, because her passenger list was worth in that day. When the dollar was 100 cents, $250 million was the worth of the passenger list. Today, it would be $1 billion. All the wealth of Europe and the wealth of this country was sailing on that maiden voyage out of Southampton. 5 nights at sea in this wonderful, glorious ship, and she went down on a cold April night on an iceberg. Now that man wrote a book, either to get something off his chest because he disliked the rich and the complacent, or he thought it might sell, or he thought this is the means of bringing him $1 as a writer. But whatever was the motive behind his book, which, by the way, he called futility, to show the utter futility of accumulated wealth. But the identical ship was built 14 years later and carried the same kind of a passenger list and went down in the same manner as the fictional ship. Is there any fiction? There is no fiction. Tomorrow's world is today's fiction. Today's world was yesteryear's fiction, the dreams of men of yesteryear. Wouldn't it be wonderful if I could talk with someone across space and just use a wire, and I couldn't see that one? It would be a mile away beyond the range of my voice. Then maybe 5 miles and maybe 1,000 miles. Fantastic dreams. Then they came true. When they came true, suppose I could do it without the means of a wire. And it came true. Suppose now I could do it not just in an audio sense, but in a video sense. Suppose I could be seen. And that came true. But when they were conceived, they were all fictional, all unreal. There is nothing unreal because God is infinite and God has finished creation. You cannot conceive of something that your Father has not only done and conceived of it, it is worked out in detail, in all its ramifications. You and I are only becoming aware of increasing portions of that which already is. We are not making a thing. We are discovering God's wonderful world. But now in this church, at least here it should be done. For this is a church of the mind. This is science of mind, where there is a science to planting, and you do it in a certain scientific manner. You just don't walk the street and reflect, read the papers and reflect. You go out a more positive person than people who gather in similar areas, for the simple reason they go just to hear a service and to be told how bad the world is. You're not coming here to be told how bad the world is, for if you believe it is bad, there is something you must do about it, because you have planted the world. You have your seed time. So here people gather to be told how to operate this wonderful gift that the Father gave them. There is this wonderful mind and imagination. So you are told to go out and be choosy in your selection. Single out that aspect of reality to which you want to respond. Success, health, dignity, nobility, something wonderful that you contribute to the good of the world. As you walk by, you are contributing to society. You contribute to the community in which you live, not necessarily by giving dollars, but you contribute by your wonderful seed time. If, in your community, you see the need of maybe a church, you see the need of some wonderful school, you don't wait until people get together. You actually, in your mind's eye, contemplate the joy that is yours because of the wonderful school here for the children, a wonderful church here to lift man spiritually. And you wonder what it would be like were it true. You feel the thrill of witnessing it within. That is seed time. Then, in a way that you do not know and you need not labor to produce, you will encounter that school and that church and these lovely things in your community. So, you plant the seed and let others who think that they are bringing it into being, let them think so. You go about this world planting the good. That is why you are here. We are gathered here on Sunday mornings to discover more and more about this wonderful gift that God gave us, that we may single out all the lovely things in the world and bring them to birth in our world. This morning, you take not only yourself, start with self, then turn to a friend in your mind's eye and congratulate him on his good fortune. Congratulate him on his expansion in his world, and actually feel the thrill of such contact. At that moment of response, that was a changed attitude in regard to that friend. At that moment, you planted. Now, in a way you do not know and you need not know, that seed is going to go through its normal, natural, hidden passage and appear as a reality in your world. Then you will know the power latent within you, and you will stop reflecting life, and you become one, what I call a true creator, in the sense that I mean creator, that you are creating by selecting wise, lovely things in this world and giving them expression in this world of ours. So that's what I mean by seed time and harvest, the importance of the right attitude. And you can do it. You need not wait for circumstances to change. You need not wait for the stimulus of a change in the object to produce in yourself the change of attitude. In your office, does the boss act in a rude way towards you? Well then, what would it be like if he now saw in me the lady, the helpful person that I really am or want to be? Suppose he saw in me someone he could praise for my work and raise me in the salary world. Give me an increase in salary because of my added effort. Suppose he could see that in me. Well, contemplate the boss seeing that in you as though he saw it and rewarded you with an increase. That moment, is the moment of planting. It may not come tonight. It may not even come this week in the paycheck, but it will come. You simply keep on planting the lovely things. But if every day when you leave the office you say, "What a skinflint," and you go home and you discuss him with your mother or your husband or someone else, and they sympathize because they really believe you, for they are playing the same reflective, negative approach to life. But if as you ride home or walk home, you walk in the attitude that he had done it, he had increased your income, he had praised your work, and day after day, in spite of other things to the contrary, you persist in it, do you know he will do it? You will produce in him the change of heart, because you first produced it in yourself. And he will see in you qualities that he cannot now see. And then your whole vast world begins to blossom. You do it in every sense of the word. You know someone who is lonely, one who really should be happily married in this world. What would it be like if you were told, not by the individual necessarily, but by a third party, of the good news concerning John, concerning Mary, or someone else? Someone desirous of a lovely home and a gracious home. What would it be like? Don't be envious. Try to rejoice. Feel the joy that is theirs, and that moment is seating for them. They will harvest it, and that is our opportunity to go through the world planting and planting wisely. Unfortunately, too many of us in church movements, I don't think you will find it in this church, but too many of us in church movements have a very serious attitude towards life. And, of course, the basic attitude is the attitude towards life, not necessarily the individual attitude towards an object or towards an individual, but the attitude itself that the individual adopts through life, towards life. And they have a very serious one. Well, Orridge very wisely and very humorously said, the serious attitude is this: they really believe that God has an enormous struggle against helpless odds. And he said that produces in the individual the emotion of helping poor Father. They go to help poor Father, who has created the world and gave it to his children. Now, he brought up another interesting point of the scientific attitude towards life. Having discovered the little molecule, or the little atom, and the wonderful construction, that is, theoretically, having discovered this wonderful orderly construction of the bricks that make up the world, their attitude is one of orderly insignificance, because they believe the world is gradually burning itself out. So no matter how orderly it is, if they really believe the sun will eventually go out and the earth will consume all its resources, what other attitude could they adopt than all dressed up with nowhere to go? Because if eventually it is all going to be in nothing anyway, no matter how orderly it is today, it could only be orderly insignificance. But I tell you, as one who has seen beyond the veil, there is no such thing as coming to an end. Life is forever and forever and forever. And forever you are moving up this everlasting pilgrimage, revealing the infinite glories of your Father. So go out wisely today. Go out determined to become more selective, more discreet in your choice of ideas. You will entertain and single out the idea that would bless an individual and produce in yourself the emotional response that you have witnessed that state in his world. And know at that moment of response, you planted for that individual, and he is rooted in you. There is no such thing as he will not be found in your world, for he is rooted in you. Everyone is rooted in you. Therefore, you will not lose them. It is planted relative to that being, and that being is going to harvest it. And you will know the harvest when it appears in His world. You simply plant and let the harvest take care of itself. Now, my time is up.